What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Liquid Trucking Podcast. I think we're all the way up to like episode 120 or something like that, but at this point, who cares? I've lost count. There's plenty of them out there. Go listen to all of them by heading over to podcast.liquidtrucking.com. I am joined here today by my co-host, Amanda, and we are here to talk about construction zone safety. And you might wonder why this is a little less conversational than normal. Well, Amanda, we just spent over an hour on the phone with our interview guest today, so we don't have a lot of time right here.
No, definitely not. And this is a topic everyone needs to pay attention to, whether you drive four wheels or more. So we should probably jump into it.
Yep, absolutely. Now, just some quick stats here for you to set this up for us. Construction zones, obviously, one of the most dangerous places on the highway. It's unfortunate, but it is true. Every year in America, 900 people die and over 40,000 are injured in work zone crashes. That's roughly a crash every 5 minutes, Amanda, somewhere in the country. And the part that matters for truck drivers, and I hate this more than anything. I don't want to say what I'm about to say, but I have to. Large trucks make up about 5% of the vehicles on the road, and they're involved in about 1/3 of construction zone crashes, okay? So today we're going to talk about construction zone safety, Amanda, because like you said, it's so important. Everybody should listen. If you drive a vehicle on the American highway system, I think that this is an important episode for you. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So listen up.
Yeah, and don't make her say it twice. Trust me, she's mean when she gets off the air and really starts getting after you. All right, let's bring those drivers in.
Welcome to the gold standard of podcasts for the gold standard of drivers. This is the Liquid Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
All right, time to get these drivers on the horn here and talk a little bit about construction zone safety. And really, Amanda, let's just call it safety in general. It's always an important thing as we yank tanks around this great nation. Joining us today, we've got some great experience on the phone here. Somebody that joins this podcast frequently. It's been a while since we've heard from him, though. Let's welcome back to the show, Polar Bear. How you doing out there, PB?
Man, trying to keep it between the lines and doing okay. I'm in Wyoming, where if anybody knows anything about Wyoming, the wind is up.
Absolutely. You told me you've already been through a few snowstorms out there.
I had a really, really bad one in the Northeast. So, yep.
Well, we're
lost 2.5 days, and you can't catch that up when you're going coast to coast.
You cannot, man. You can come to Oregon and stop and have lunch with me, though. I'll buy you a burger. I mean, come on. You've been through it out there, man. I'd take care of you.
Yep. I'm still waiting.
Yeah, you'll get a load out here.
I once, but I was too far away.
Yep. You'll get another load out here. Hey, like I say, there was that one time I was driving in the Columbia Gorge on Interstate 84, and I passed a liquid truck, and I thought, that's close enough to me. They get out here. I've seen it. So we'll make it happen one of these times, my friend, but I'm glad you're safe out there. I know Wyoming, wind and snow this time of year, so we're really glad to hear that you are keeping it between 10 and 2. And as always, Polar Bear, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, yep.
Next up, I've got John Harrington on the line. John, welcome back to the show, my friend. It's been a while since we've had you on here as well.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just sitting here in Council Bluffs waiting to get unloaded. Sun's shining.
Hey, man, sounds like better than being in Wyoming, bucking the wind, man. And hey, if you have to skip out and let us go so that you can go get unloaded, John, just let us know, or put us on hold and come back to it, whatever you got to do. We're totally fine with that. It happens sometimes. You guys have got a job to do, and contrary to what Amanda's and my parents both think, we're not the most important ones in this world. So, it totally makes sense. If you got to go do your unload, John, we understand, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. And the guy who brought up this topic, who will be going home with the Drive for Gold points for suggesting it, is also joining us here today. His name is Jimmy Travis. Jimmy, thanks for being here, my friend. Where are you at today?
Oh, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you grabbing the topic. I mean, it's just something that I think is important, because a lot of companies, they don't really teach this stuff, and a lot of young drivers need to know. And And so it's important, but I am sitting in downtown traffic in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, man, where they run the Indy 500, but not
Right.
where you're at.
Exactly.
Cool, fellas. Well, let's use that, Jimmy, as a little bit of a jumping off point, because I assume that when you brought this up to me, maybe something triggered it. Did you see something in a construction zone that made you think that maybe this would be a good topic to bring up, or do you just have experience in your past where you've seen something that maybe made you think, hey, we should chat about this a little bit?
Yeah, I was I was an owner operator. I've been driving 35 years. I've been an owner operator, and I was doing a lease purchase at a place about two companies ago. We lost our contract at the Ford plant and ended up doing a lease purchase. And I was driving, and there was a driver that went to this company with me from the one that lost the contract. And he had been driving maybe about 5 years. And we were driving and in a construction zone. And he's like, "Hey, come on, let's go." And I'm like, "Hey, man, I don't speed in the construction zone." And he said, he's like, "Well, I do. I don't worry about it." And I was like, "Well, you better, because it's your livelihood and your family." And so ever since then, it's just hit me. And when I went through training here at Liquid, I noticed how quick it was. Not to say anything bad. It's not meant that way, but it was a quick training, and I was like, "Wow, man, I'm surprised that none of these companies take the time to talk about this." So when I get the opportunity, I always try to talk to people about it and the awareness of it. That's all.
Sure. And what's your philosophy there? Because it sounds like you've got kind of a set of standards for construction zone safety that you don't skimp on at all, Jimmy. So what would those be if you could just kind of put it in a nutshell for us?
I mean, for me, I can only be safe for me. I can't really be safe for anybody else. But when it comes to my family, I mean, this job feeds my family.
Mhm.
It's my livelihood. So when I'm driving down the road and I see a construction zone, I think about a lot of things. I think about, if I'm speeding, what would the CSA ramifications be? How many points would that be? What could that do to me? What could it do to my driver's license? If I have an accident while speeding, it's one thing. If I have an accident speeding in a construction zone, that's a whole nother case.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so I look at things like, this is reckless driving, or this is careless and imprudent driving.
Mhm.
To be speeding through a construction zone, and if workers are present, well, that's even a bigger thing. So I start thinking about all those things, and that's a big deal to me. So, I mean, this is my livelihood. It's how I've been doing this 35 years. It's the way I feed my family. I got grandkids. It's the way I take care of them. I don't want to jeopardize my family in any way. And so, yeah, I'm very, like today, I've been in two construction zones already, and people get mad at me. The sign says get in the left lane if you're in a truck. I get in the left lane, I go 55. I'm not speeding for nobody.
Sure.
If you want to go around me and risk your CDL, that's on you.
That's on
I
you.
can't protect that. I'm only safe for me.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Well, that's well said, Jimmy. And there's a couple things I want to touch on that you mentioned is that these laws vary state to state, okay? Obviously, FMCSA governs us as truck drivers, but in construction zones, some states are different than others, and you don't know. I mean, I'm sitting right here looking at Ohio, double fines in work zones. That's the same as it is here in Oregon. Indiana has increased penalties if workers are present, like you were saying there, Jimmy. Michigan has work zone speed enforcement cameras that are specifically installed at construction zones to try to catch people speeding. And Florida has a whole list of different punishments that can come into play if they consider your driving aggressive in a construction zone. Just those 4 states right there, Amanda. The regulations are so much different. I feel like it's kind of a fool's errand to go and try to learn all of the state's laws, but it's a real good idea to probably brush up on what's recommended by the FMCSA and the Department of Transportation in construction zones. And I've got that stuff here for you. But real quick, Amanda, I want to go to you as a non-truck driver. What is your protocol in a construction zone? Because look, we all know everybody that lives in a metropolitan area has dealt with a perpetual construction zone. They had one on Highway 30 over here in Oregon they had an actual dry erase board on the year that they planned to finish, and they just kept wiping it off and changing it every single year further down the road. So talk to me about what goes through your head, Amanda, when you come up on a construction zone and how you kind of deal with that whole thing.
So I'll start by saying the state of Ohio has a pretty serious problem with workers being hit in construction zones, and the Ohio Department of Transit does a really good job on reporting those things. Obviously, with the intention of trying to cut those things down, and passing laws that are related, like not being on your phone, not being allowed to be on your phone while you're driving, which I think is kind of across the board a law here from state to state, but it is such an issue for people hitting not just people in construction zones, but law enforcement on the side of the road.
Yep.
We have such a major issue with it, and I really think that cell phones are a huge part of why civilians are causing these issues. I think also on the flip side of what he was just saying is I don't think the average driver, the civilian driver, is educated on how to behave around a semi, especially in a construction zone.
Yeah.
Um, we
Really
have a
good point there.
section of highway out here, State Route 80, not State Route 80, but 80. And it's the way that you go Ohio to Michigan, and that's a very frequently traveled route for a lot of people around here, especially if you want to go to the Upper Peninsula. But several areas of that are construction heavy, and it is very confusing to know. And I am a rule follower. I don't want to break the law. I don't want to speed. I especially don't want to speed in a construction zone. Fines are doubled for civilian drivers if you speed through a construction zone. So, I try to drive exactly what the speed limit is, not one over, not one under, and I still somehow make people angry, which is fine with me. I'd rather have you be angry than get caught by a statey. You know what I mean? When I
Yep.
hop out the other side of these narrow lanes. But I think that there's not enough education on how the civilian driver should be treating the truck driver, especially in those scenarios.
One of the funny things about getting really angry in the cab of your rig is that you typically get to go home afterwards as long as you don't act like an idiot. If you speed in a construction zone, you might not. And I think that's the real point here, or somebody else might not. Let's think about the workers, okay? I've got some pretty harrowing stats here about construction zone incidents, accidents, and we'll get to them here after a little bit, but yeah, it's not only yourself, your meal ticket, your well-being and providing for your family, but you could be looking at taking that away from somebody else if we're not following these protocols. So, Polar Bear, I want to go to you here, man. You've got 3 decades behind the wheel, just like Jimmy, just a metric ton of experience. What types of safety measures do you take when you're coming up on a construction zone, Polar Bear?
Just like what Jimmy said, I've noticed it in probably the last 5 years. And what I hate about it is, like where Jimmy is, because I was just through there a week ago, we're in the hammer lane, which is the left lane to us truckers. There's the zipper and then a Jersey barrier. You get on the right side and there's a shoulder. Why are we in that small lane? That's the one thing I've noticed the most, it seems to be, of the construction zones. But I'm probably around 5 years when I first got here. I got it was just a bridge construction, and I probably was doing 5 over, and the bear pulled me over right after it and tongue lashed me, and he said that could have been way worse. And I said, I didn't think of that. I just knew it was a bridge. And ever since then, you learn from your mistakes, or try to. So
Yeah.
I respect them but here's the thing I've always said: if they put a bear at the beginning and the end, they wouldn't have to worry about the national debt anymore, because everybody's trying to beat that traffic to get into that one lane.
Yep.
Yeah,
everybody loses their mind and forgets how to zipper merge, right?
Yeah, so now I got to slam on my brakes, even though I'm doing the construction, and look ahead. Okay, now you hit that truck, and that truck veers and hits that Jersey barrier or the guardrail. Now all of a sudden we could be in there for a day trying to fix that accident because you were trying to beat us, or once again, I love the phones, but you pair the phone with a human. I don't like that part.
Yep.
It's like I say, phones, the human body, it seems like we're robots now. You're not complete until you got that phone in your hand. That's the circuit, or that's the fuse that makes you whole. It's just, I don't know. I don't fit into this new age very good, but I'm too young to retire, and I don't know if my wife would want me home every day since I stay on the road 2-3 months at a time.
Well, you said that's the fuse that makes you whole. I think in certain situations, that's the fuse that makes you an as well, because a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say in their phone, and it's not always productive. But good stuff there from you, Polar Bear. John,
really quick,
yes,
I wanted to say something really quick. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, and I see it all the time, but I don't know, it just hit me wrong. I was coming from the urinal, and there was a guy coming to the urinal with a phone in his hand, and I so badly just wanted to kick him as hard in the ass as I could. And now see what you do with that damn phone in your hand. I don't know, I see it all the time, and it irritates me, but why can you not put it down long enough to do your job there?
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up quick.
Hey,
everybody has seen it.
I hear you, man. Listen, I'm not taking a piece of toast into the bathroom to eat it. I don't need to take my phone into a public bathroom. It goes into my pocket, but that whole having it out thing, the way that it's impacted me, Amanda, is I go, well, where's the surface that I'm comfortable setting this phone down when I need to use both of my hands? There isn't one.
Listen, I spent a brief period of time working for, I will just say, a very large company that you can order anything from, and maybe it'll show up at your house the same day. This nameless large corporation I worked for, okay? And anytime you go into the restroom, you go into the bathroom stall, all of a sudden you're sitting there and you hear, I don't know, the news, a music video, something popping up in the stall next to you. And I'm just going, I didn't even want to bring my work gloves in here, and you brought your whole phone that you're later going to probably press against your face. But you go ahead and do that. You go ahead and do that.
I get to each their own, and if you want to get pink eye from a public restroom, go ahead and just stay on your phone. But I feel like that's a whole different podcast episode, a very good one that we need to talk about, because look, we haven't addressed distracted driving for a while, and we do have a distracted driving episode planned here coming up sometime in the next couple of months. So we're going to come back to that, but very good stuff there, Polar Bear, because I think it factors in a lot, Amanda, like you said. A lot of the accidents that get caused by civilian drivers, non-commercial CDL holders in construction zones, are because they've got their face in a phone. And there's 1,000 videos out there online where you can watch people drive at high speeds into concrete abutments, jersey barriers, guardrails, or directly into the back end of a semi because they're not paying any attention. And it's a giant problem. I mean, I think at this point in time, we're all really well versed in it. We all know how. I mean, you drive down the road, it doesn't take you 30 seconds to spot somebody with their head buried in their phone.
Honestly. And it used to be like, oh, someone's doing their makeup, somebody's trying to eat breakfast, and now they're doing all of those things while also being on the phone.
Exactly.
But could you imagine, like, you're around my age, we're close to the same age. Remember a Goofy movie? I think one of the best scenes in that whole movie is when they first hit the road and they do the song Out on the Open Road. And if he had a cell phone, and I don't mean Goofy, I mean his son Max, none of that would have happened. So,
no road trips on.
Better times, way better times.
And one hell of a movie. If you haven't seen a Goofy movie, you gotta go see it. It'll still bring a tear to my eye to this day. It's a great little father-son movie if you catch my drift there. But you're right. Think about the road trips you went on as a kid. When you fell in love with road trips, you didn't have a phone to keep you distracted the whole time. I mean, I remember the first time my parents got a TV. There was a TV in a Suburban that they bought, like a little drop-down 6-inch screen. And I was so excited. I took my PlayStation and I plugged it into that, and we drove 6.5 hours to Portland. I was so green and sick after that drive that I never brought it with me again. I thought I'd rather just look out the window so I don't have to barf for 4 hours after a car ride. John, you've been very patient, man, and thank you for that. I want to talk to you. We haven't gone to you yet about kind of the things that you put into practice when you drive into a construction zone. Do you have anything that sort of is like an instinct for you that you turn on when you start to see the orange cones?
Just slow down, pay attention to the signs, and make sure you know exactly where you're going. When I first started driving back in 2002, I was working for Gordon, and they asked every single one of their drivers to go to a safety thing in Arizona.
Mhm.
And that's where I found out that AZ requires every civilian driver when they're first getting their license to actually drive one of these trucks on private property, basically a truck driving school.
I didn't know
And
that.
Swift actually promoted it because there was too many kids getting ran over by trucks because they didn't know how to drive next to one. See,
Interesting.
when I got my license back in 99, I got my Class C, then I turned around and got my Class A 6 months later, because in California, you could actually drive inside the state lines when you were 18.
Oh, okay.
And my dad said, okay, you're going to be me. And I got thrown in a 84 Kenworth 100 cab over. First thing my dad taught me was he stuck me right in between two semis in his Ford Granada. Similar training is what AZ does, but it's in a controlled environment. Well, my procedure is, as far as coming up to Cone Zone, when I was a rookie, when I was a greenhorn, I was coming down Donner Pass, and if anybody knows about Donner, it's one of the worst highways in the United States.
Yes, sir.
Well, I seen two trucks collide because they had the Jersey barriers too close, and one was on one side of the Jersey barrier, the other one was on the other side. One was going north or westbound, the other one was going eastbound, and they collided and literally made the Jersey barrier part of their truck.
Oh gosh.
And ever since then, I get real nervous when I see somebody that can't read a road sign, or worse than that, come up to a driver that's driving an 80,000-pound bullet and his foot's up on the dash with a damn cell phone in his hand.
Yep. And it's, it's only a matter of time until that guy goes off the road, whether it's on a stretcher or because his CSA score legislates that he goes off the road. But unfortunately, there are people out there like that, John, and I'm sure you see them all the time, man.
Yeah, well, Oregon's got a big problem. Well, used to have a big problem in it, because when I was going through the scale right there on I-5 quite frequently, I would literally come out of the scale and they'd get the green light to go past it, and they'd have their foot up on the dash with the phone in their face.
That's wild. And really bold, too, to do at a weigh station of all places where they're looking for stuff like that, right?
Well, hey, you think so, but I used to run the I-5 corridor when I first started driving 90% of my driving career.
Mm-hmm.
It was either that or me going from San Francisco to New York on the 80.
Gotcha. So you've seen it all from corner to corner.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I'm waiting for every state to have the same rule as Washington State. They don't care if you got a Bluetooth or not. They catch you on your cell phone, it's a $500 fine.
Wow,
Yep.
really? You can't even do hands free?
Yeah, they won't even allow it, because I didn't even know they changed the law. I got busted for it right there in Pacific, Washington, because I was talking on my headset, and the cop pulled me over right in Gordon's driveway, right next to the Freightliner dealership, and I had no clue what I did. And he asked me, he says, "Were you on your headset?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." But I thought it was hands-free, and he says, "Not in Washington State. We vetoed that after we had that big pile-up on I-5
Yep.
right there in Seattle,
Yep.
because somebody was on their cell phone, and they proved it. And right then, the legislation said, nope, no cell phones at all."
Yeah. It's such a big issue, man. There's no question about it. And again, we'll spend a little bit more time talking about cell phones when we get to our distracted driving episode. And guys that are listening right now, be thinking about that. If you want to join that distracted driving episode, make sure you reach out by sending an email to us podcast at liquidtrucking.com, because we want to involve as many drivers as possible. I think for the distracted driving episode, one thing I want to do, Amanda, is pile up as many of these wild stories as we can so we can really see how prevalent this is, because we know every single one of you drivers sees it every single day. And maybe there's something we can do to shed a little light on how bad of a problem it really is. We know you liquid drivers are out there being safe. I've talked to enough of you to know I've been on hold. I've waited for you to call me back. I know you guys are going through and doing what you're supposed to be doing, but we can't legislate everybody out there, unfortunately. And maybe when we get that distracted driving episode going, we'll get a good number of drivers on joining us so that we can really show how bad it actually is. I want to talk a little bit because, Jimmy, you mentioned this. I have here violations and their CSA severity weight and also the multiplier, and I figure now's a good time to go over that again. It's been probably 6 or 8 months since we've discussed this here on the podcast, and as Jimmy was saying, he's always thinking about the points and how they're going to reflect and what they're going to do. Well, let's talk about that for a little bit here. And we're going to start with one that we've just been chatting about: driving a commercial vehicle while texting. That is 10 points. All right. Reckless driving, 10 points. Speeding 15 miles an hour over the speed limit, 10 points. Speeding in a construction zone, 10 points. All those things we've talked about today, those are the 4 highest things that can penalize you the most. And then, of course, we've got speeding 11 to 14 over is 7 points. A seatbelt violation run you 7, following too closely 5, improper lane change 5, and speeding 6 to 10 over the limit is a 4-point violation. Now, an important thing to remember with this stuff is that time is a factor, okay? Your points have a heavier weight on the company's CSA score the closer to the event that we are. If you're within 6 months from the event, it's gonna have a 3 times multiplier on it. So speeding in a construction zone could cost you 30 points, okay? If you're 6 to 12 months away from the violation, it's still got a 2 times multiplier on it. So still 20 points up to a year after. And then from 12 to 24 months, so 1 year to 2 year, you're at a 1x. So it's still going to cost you 10 points, even 12 to 24 months after that violation. Jimmy, I know you probably know some of that or all of that information by heart, but does that help clear anything up for you? Does that information make anything a little bit easier to understand?
No, I mean, that's spot on. It's 10 points to speeding, and it's 5 points if workers are present. That's 5 additional points. And then for every mile an hour over, 1 to 4 is another point. And then, well, I can't remember them all, but it goes all the way up to another 5 points.
Yep.
That whole violation, if workers are present and you're speeding, I mean, that's 15 points without even considering the rest of it. That's 45 points right there.
Yep.
Yeah, 45
45
points before
points.
you even add how many miles over you were going. And then don't let there be an accident or something. I mean, there's so many ramifications in that. It's not even funny.
Yep. And listen, Polar Bear, I think you've joined us in the past when we've talked about the CSA score and the weight. It's a fleet focused thing, but your performance as a driver affects all the other drivers in the fleet, because you can end up with more DOT inspections, more audits, higher insurance premiums for the fleets. You can lose shipper contracts over stuff like this. Sometimes a shipper just doesn't want to work with a company that's got a high CSA score. Which can also lead to reduced driver job opportunities because maybe the fleet has to shrink down because they don't have as many clients anymore. So, Polar Bear, with all your years of experience here at Liquid, I'm sure you've seen it where the CSA score has dipped a little bit. How do you, as one of the most senior drivers here with the fleet, kind of help, or do you help mentor guys on the CSA score? Is there ever anything that you're trying to help guys out with, trying to teach them that, like, hey, you being an idiot out here affects my Monday to Friday? How do you deal with any of that, or do you deal with it at all, Polar Bear?
No, I do. Myself and another driver was on the same load, and I loaded before him. He went in and we both got fuel. And I went in and took a little bit of time there. Well, he hurry up and got out of there and to the customer, and he was almost unloaded. And I'm like, how in the can you be that far ahead of me? Because I know what's ahead of us. I said, if you ever get caught, you're going to have a strike against you within the company, and then your ticket, and then how much of your check is going towards that ticket. And because when I first started driving, like the other two, we didn't have to worry about that. I had a bad driving record because that's the way we were. The faster you got that load off the next one you got on, like I said, I don't need a piece of plastic to drive. I know how to do it. But then it's, the older you get, like I absolutely hate driving at night. I just can't see as
Oh my
good
God,
as
I'm
I
there
used
with
to.
you.
And
I'm right there with you.
especially like we were talking, we got to be in the hammer lane, the Jersey barrier's there. Some of them four-wheelers are just barely above it. So as you're coming around, you've got the shininess of if there's weather out, and then going over the Jersey barrier. And let's say you're on a curve, I can't see. I hope I don't hit that, But yeah, I try not to drive at night. But to get my job done today, I had to start at 3:30 this morning, and in Utah, as you know, you're an hour further behind than that. I was in Ogden, Utah, unloading when the sun finally come up, and so the whole trip to Ogden was in the night, and so. I take it very, very seriously because, for one thing, it's wish my mom was alive to show her that I actually have a perfect driving record. I could never show her that before.
She sees it.
She
sees it. She's proud. She's
with you in spirit.
Yeah.
Yep, riding shotgun in spirit, man, for sure.
Maybe that's why you have the driving
very
record.
important because. Yeah, I never thought I would ever have that, but yeah, it's very important because. I think it goes a lot further in the company that way too. If, like I told Bynes way back in the day, I don't want to be one of your best drivers. I just want to be one of your drivers. I just want to be here, and that's I try to take care of my reputation and my career here.
Absolutely.
Polar Bear made a very important point. Back in the day, when we got our CDL, when I got mine in 1990. Things were different. I got mine when they very first went from commercial chauffeur to Class A CDL.
Mm-hmm.
Things were different. When I got my CDL, a pre-trip consisted of kick the tires, check the air brake, make sure it's going, check the horn, check the oil, let's get on down the road. That's exactly what Lieutenant Smalls did in Houston, Texas, when we went and did our driving test. We didn't have a 50-point inspection. We didn't have all the things they do today. So, you got to think about the evolution of trucking to where it was in when the CDL first started to where we are today.
Sure.
Yeah,
you guys
that was a very important point.
You guys were almost set up to have that bad driving record back then. It sounds like it's because you're saying like get it there. We got paper logs. We might be able to fudge them. If we can get it there, we make more money. But getting it there often is hammer down in the hammer lane. And Smokey's still out there looking for you. Even back in the 90s, there wasn't as many of them, and they weren't as good at it. But they were still out there, right?
It was a production-based industry.
Right. Amanda,
they just wanted you to be safe and not be that idiot zigzagging in between traffic. Just be safe, and
we all know that idiot, man. We've all seen him out there on the road. I can't promise you I've never been him, but I promise you I will never be again because of what my job is now. But Amanda, I wanted to go back to you. You kind of perked up there when Polar Bear was talking about driving at night.
Yeah, well, yeah, because first of all, I totally get that. And it's strange how it comes upon you all of a sudden. You just think one day maybe you're tired and then no, you're old. So I'm there with you for that one. But I was thinking about, when you're listing the offenses and the punishment associated with it, one of the things you mentioned was like a reckless op, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like a blanket term. I feel like that is something that's made for the people dishing it out to use it at their discretion, right? So the reason that I bring that up is I saw a video the other day of a driver trying to make his way through a construction zone, and it was lined out by the large barrel cones, right?
Mhm.
He was popping every single barrel as he passed it, and it was not a fault of his own. It was this construction crew had put them out in a way that they did not leave enough clearance. And my
Mhm.
question to you guys, to the drivers, is what do you do in a scenario like that where, the zone, the construction zone itself is not necessarily made appropriately for you? Have you ever had a scenario where you had to kind of defend yourself in your driving, because of something that the workers may have set up? Turnover rate can be very high for that part of the job. So maybe not as much of a skill. You would think, how hard is it to put a barrel down? But now when I'm watching, a tractor trailer try to get through, it's a pretty important job.
Sure, sure. John, we'll go roundtable with you guys on this because I want to hear everybody's response. John, have you ever had that happen? I mean, Polar Bear talked about the lanes being so narrow sometimes. Ever seen anything like that out there? Had it happen to you?
Actually, when I was coming down, I believe it was 240 in Tennessee, they done that. And except it wasn't the large barrels, it was the little skinny stand-up cones.
Yeah, the candle
And I
cones.
ran
Yep.
over about, I ran over about 6 of them. And I was in my lane. I mean, we didn't have the fancy cameras that we got now, but my trainer at the time, he actually put cameras on the side of his doors before these came out. And we had to pull over because, I was destroying public property. And so we pulled over, Highway Patrol came out, and he was going to write me a big ticket. I mean, it was my first over the road driving. I was with Swift at the time. And he showed him the video, and just by looking at the video, the cop was smart enough to know that they put the cones in wrong.
Oh,
Thank
wow.
God.
So it actually exonerated you.
Yeah, but he still cited me because he asked me why I didn't stop in the middle of the lane. I said, well, if people were coming up behind me, even if I had my flashers on, how do you know that they wouldn't have went underneath the DOT bar? I've seen that happen on numerous occasions when I was coming out of the TA in Ontario.
Yep.
California.
That's a terrible thing, but it happens. I've seen it. I actually saw it up on Mount Shasta in California last time I was driving down through there. Jimmy, we'll go to you with Amanda's question there. Ever had a scenario like that where the lane was just too narrow for you?
Oh yeah, I've had it on more than one occasion, especially when they're paving and they're doing new, putting on new asphalt. I've had it to where they put the cones right there at the edge of where they're paving, and I understand it's where they're working, and sometimes you see them there, but it's like, did the engineer really think this through?
Right.
I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean, I just go through there. I'm like, there's nothing else you can do. I mean, everybody's in front of me's going, and I'm going, and we're like, it's tight, and if I hit them, I hit them, but. And I've rubbed some and not rubbed some, especially when I was in that car hauler and I was running that car hauler down the highway.
I imagine
that thing has stuff that sticks out and you can't do anything about it. And yeah, I've hit several of them.
Man, I was gonna say, you see regular tractor trailers struggling to get through there, and then you've got the large loads, the extra wide loads, like where do they have to detour like completely to another highway, like an extra wide load when they close the lane down so narrow? I just can't imagine. And if it's terrifying for a
Oh, yeah.
regular driver, like I can't imagine hauling that much weight and taking up that much space. I'm sweating thinking about
yeah,
it. Stop
I know.
it.
It's serious, and I think about just around here, especially, and John wasn't, if he didn't have us on hold right now, I'm sure he could speak to this because as much up and down I-5 as he did, and Interstate 84, we've got a lot of it over here too, but it's the windmills. And if you've ever seen them haul the pieces for those windmills, they haul those blades in one piece. And
Right.
those blades, I mean, it's the longest truck you've ever seen. And I think about some of the windy roads along the Columbia Gorge. They're down to one lane, and because a lot of those windmills sit on the Columbia. Like it's a windy area. You want to have them out there. They've got to take that thing through the same construction zone that we do, and I just don't understand how they get it down through there. And I'm sure there's some detours that they have to take, but man, I'm sweating too. You guys have got me sweating today, and that's good. I should be sweating. This
Good
is
deal.
this is a sweaty topic, right? We should be sweating a little bit over
It's
it.
a good thing they can't see us right now, Marcus.
Yeah,
'cause,
exactly.
Man.
Polar Bear, any instances where you've maybe traded paint with a construction cone in a real narrow lane? You were the one that actually brought that up first.
So I had it in, like, John, not the other one. Yeah, I had it once where they had just paved and the white lines were down, and they're going, because, they're in that little truck where they can sit on it. They were driving wrong and putting it on my side. So now I got to go, I'm halfway onto the zipper or onto the shoulder, and I, to avoid the rumble strip, I got to be 3/4 of the way on. And I'm thinking as I see him, they're picking him up, and I'm like, well, why is he putting that over there towards me? Why am I getting over further now?
Right.
Yeah. There's just so many instances that you can't think of it.
Yeah. And
But here's the other thing I wanted to bring up real quick. Okay, so it's a construction zone, and it's if the workers are present. And I have seen it so many times that I can't count. They are walking beside the paver, and they're not even paying attention, and all of a sudden they might walk a foot, 6 inches towards me. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, it's like they know they're protected, I think. I don't know if I'm right, but I think that's what they think, But it's like,
you can't
they
stop
don't
on a
pay
dime.
attention.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. Sometimes I'd like to just take the bottom mirror and tap him on top of the head and say, get over,
Give him a little haircut real quick.
Yeah, no,
There you go.
I think there is something to that, Polar Bear. I think that it's, and listen, it's hard to argue with them. As if I was a construction worker, I would want to believe that everybody is following the laws and that everybody is taking extra care when I'm out here in steel-toed boots and a hard hat and there's 80,000-pound rigs flying by me. It's not the reality. I would love to say that it's the reality and we're all following the rules, but we're having this conversation because it's not. And I've totally seen what you're talking about out there, Polar Bear. It seems almost like an idiotic confidence. It's like, how did you haven't been hit by a vehicle yet. That's why you feel like you're invincible. First guy that bumps you with a fender at 25 miles an hour is going to change your whole life.
Honestly, your vest is orange, not bulletproof.
Exactly. So maybe, and listen, I'm not going to be victim blaming here. Any construction worker that's been involved in an accident in a construction zone, hit by a car or a truck or anything, it's terribly tragic and you don't want to see it happen. And it's not any one person's fault. Most of the time, other than probably the driver, if we can pinpoint negligence in somebody's case or just distracted driving, speeding, following too closely, whatever it might be, the onus is probably going to fall on the driver there. But if there's any construction guys out there listening to this podcast right now, I will just say, could you just look up and acknowledge us once? Because it's very nerve-wracking when, like Polar Bear's saying, like, yeah, you're walking down my lane and you haven't looked at me yet, and I am traveling down it at 45 miles an hour. Can we please just have a nonverbal contract here where you see me, I see you, and we both acknowledge that we're in the world at the same time? I get that, Polar Bear, and it's tough because, again, like I said, that's a dangerous job, man. It's just like what you guys are doing. It's a damn dangerous job, and people's lives can be drastically changed with just a couple seconds of distraction or, like I said, speeding, following too closely, you name it. And, Jimmy, part of what you told me when you and I were talking about this episode that you wanted to touch on is that we got to understand here as drivers, too, that a lot of times when an accident happens and somebody's going to sue somebody, yeah, they're probably going to sue the fleet. They're also probably going to sue the driver. It happens a lot, Jimmy, and that was something that you kind of wanted to touch on here today. I wonder if in your vast experience and all the drivers you've known, have you ever either had that happen to you personally, or do you know anybody that it's happened to in their driving career?
Honestly, no. I do not. I do know several people that have been involved in fatalities. and a few,
Mhm.
3,
Mhm.
and none of them they never got sued by the family or anything. But I just know it's just a common knowledge that you're responsible for that truck. And one of the biggest things that people make a mistake about, they're like, well, I'm not in the construction zone. Well, I'm just in town, or I'm just driving down the highway, and I'm just, the bad thing is the first thing they do is check speed. They check speed. You're in control of that equipment. You're in control of that semi. You're going down the road. Just like when the ship hit the bridge, the first thing they do is check speed. How
Yep.
many knots was he going? How fast is he going? First thing they're going to want to do is they're going to check logs. The lawyers will check logs to see if they can find that you were operating a vehicle when you shouldn't have been. And then the next, they're going to check speed. Was he being safe? Was he being reckless? Was he being careless? Was he just speeding down the road and just ran somebody over? I mean, it's it happens so much, but especially in a construction zone. I mean, if that were to happen in the construction zone, and I've seen, it wasn't too long ago, I saw a fatality accident in the construction zone. They had to reroute everybody. I'm just like, oh my God, do you realize what just happened? Do you realize the you know the 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 legalities that you just messed up, man, bud? Because you not only gonna go to prison, but there's probably some heavy stuff involved in that if you're at fault.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
speeding, if you were speeding in that zone, in that rig, in that missile, and you take somebody's life or something happens, that's serious. That's it. It's game over.
Absolutely.
And so, a lot of young people, especially young drivers, it's like, do you think about that? I mean, should litigation happen and you were speeding in that zone, you didn't kill nobody, but you had an accident, somebody got hurt, insurance didn't pay the full amount, they're coming after you for the rest. Do you think about your wife and your kids and what you put them in the middle of?
Yeah, just jumped into a real muddy pond if you end up wrapped up in something like that. And like you said, possible even jail time for it. Another thing that lawyers are going to immediately check for, you mentioned speed, you mentioned negligence, you mentioned carelessness. Substances is another thing that they're going after right away. Not that any of you guys that are driving for liquid are addicted to or on any substances, but you can bet your ass that they're going to check. And if they find out that you were, all of a sudden you've just entered a completely new realm of terrible on top of the one you're already in. So it can really cascade on you. And Jimmy, I'm glad that we were able to talk about that a little bit. Polar Bear, I want to go to you here too, just to see if you know any drivers, because again, 3 decades behind the wheel plus for both of you guys. Have you ever known anybody, Polar Bear, that ended up as a defendant in a lawsuit or got sued personally for something that happened while they were driving their truck?
No, the Loves in Shelby, Iowa, and I think all of us know where it is. I become pretty good friends with one of the workers, and like I've said on one of the podcasts, I thank them profusely. But he used to do the tires, and he seen that there was a truck coming at him. He stood up, sucked up against the truck he was working on. That truck got so close, it circled him twice, and he had severe uh, nerve damage. Like he couldn't hardly walk. He had like somebody that's deformed in the hand, can't straighten their hand out. He had severe nerve damage, and I'm like, I can't believe that you're still working. But they once again it happened so fast. They didn't know who did it, how to go after anybody. And so once again, that's where all the workers are protected, even record drivers. It used to just be cops, ambulances. Now it's record drivers, and anybody with a whoopee light on it is really protected.
Yep. Yeah, you got to, I mean, I know in Oregon, the law reads pretty straightforward. If there's an emergency vehicle of any type, and that covers red lights, blue lights, and orange lights, you have to get out of the lane next to them if you can do it safely. So if they're on the right side of the road and you're cruising down I-5, you're not allowed to be in the right lane if it's safe for you to move over. And I've seen a ton of people get tickets for it. And because they had a couple of similar type accidents here, Polar Bear, within the last like 10 years, they really hammered down on it in my state. Giving that protected space for first responders and emergency vehicles to do their work can really prevent some stuff. But I think the first time I ever saw a state cop, he was standing at the passenger side window of somebody he had pulled over, what I guess was for speeding on I-5. And I was in the left lane back a little bit, and there was a car in front of me, probably, 10 car lengths. There was nobody in front of me in the left lane, but this car was in the right lane. I watched the cop just wave goodbye to the person that he had pulled over and leave them on the side of the road and fire it out into the right lane to go pull over the person that didn't get over. So I think that little story right there shows you how important it is to the first responders themselves that you get over. Like I said, that was probably a speeding ticket. He wanted this other one a lot more, and I understand why. Drive the point home, right? We don't want...
Well, and any of us that's been out there long enough has had a breakdown. Well, you're out, let's say it's a tire. You're going back and forth trying to figure it out, just being on the side of the road with a broke down vehicle, even in your truck, people are whizzing by and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even feel safe. And I'm in my truck,
right.
So,
yeah. Lots of reckless people out there. Go ahead, Jimmy.
When you say that, another thing that you got to look at, and it's just like being in the construction that we're talking about when workers are present, the officer, it may just be a ticket for speeding in that zone. If workers are present, that creates a whole different deal. The officer's not going to tell you that. He's going to be like, oh, it's okay. You just pay this ticket and everything's going to be okay. Here's the problem, man. If they call that careless and imprudent driving, which most of the time they are, same as speeding in a school zone.
Right.
Insurance companies aren't going to touch you. Now your livelihood's at risk. Now your family's at risk because now you can't get a job because insurance companies are going to be like, not for 3 years. I'm not touching that.
Yes, sir. Super important.
It raises rates.
Yeah.
It raises rates. So, there's so many things there, to think about.
No, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Jimmy. And I think that this conversation has been really good at bringing up little things that maybe we don't think about every single day, but are of vital importance. And of course, anything that touches the realm of safety is always, that's A1 important here at the Liquid Trucking Podcast at Liquid Trucking. And that's not just lip service. You can see it in the numbers. We know how good we are, how safe we are here at Liquid, but just having these conversations every now and then, and especially with drivers of your guys' experience, the three of you have been out on the road for a real long time, and you've seen pretty much everything there is to be seen. Sometimes it's good just to remind some of our younger guys out there that, hey, these are the nuances of our job. These are the things you have to think about, because if you're not thinking about it one time and that one mistake happens, you might be looking at the end of a career. You might be looking at having to wait 3 years before an insurance company will touch you. You could be looking at prison time. It runs the gamut. You could be looking at, you took somebody's father away from them, or their mother away from them, or their child away from them. You don't want to live with that either. So all these things are so important that we talk about, and I just want to thank you guys for coming on here and having this conversation with me, because I'll be honest with you, this isn't the most fun I've had on the Liquid Trucking Podcast in the last few weeks, Amanda, but it's important that we come out here and have these conversations. Fellas, I think that we're probably just about ready to wrap up. I had a couple more things here for you, but we kind of touched on them, and I'm pretty happy with where we're at here, but I'm going to go to you guys for your final thoughts and make sure we didn't leave anything off the table. But real quick, I want to check on John. John, are you back with us by chance?
I just got done, so yeah.
Hey, look at that. All right.
Look at that.
Good timing. Good.
All
I was
could think
about
about,
to... John, I had
Marcus.
my applause button queued up. I got to be honest with you. You were about 3 seconds away from hearing these guys. My cricket button, but we got you back, man, and I'm glad we did. We're going to do final thoughts here. And Amanda, I kind of cut you off there. Did
No,
you
I
have
was
something?
gonna say all I could think about was the previous episode. We did a little this or that, like, you have to choose between one or the other. And when he said he had to back his truck in, my mind immediately went there. When you're like, Abby, you got to back in front of a bunch of veterans, or I'm like, oh God. And I was just thinking about him the whole time. Like, I hope it goes smoothly.
It went smooth for him. I guarantee. I can hear the happiness in his voice. That means he's working on the end of his day, right, John?
Yeah, as soon as I get done, I head straight to the yard, and then my truck goes into the shop.
Heck yeah. Well, not heck yeah for going into the shop, but heck yeah for getting out of the truck and then being home, right?
Well, I'm like polar bear. I stay out here about 3 months at a time.
Okay. All right. Gotcha.
So technically I am home.
Okay.
So, but I would like to make a comment to what she said.
Yes.
And I don't know how the other two feel about this or not, but regardless, how long I've been out here back and doing this job, I screw up every day. But it's just like practice makes perfect. If you go in confident every day that you're going to do it in one shot, then you're better than me. And that's okay.
Yes, sir.
I mean, a simple back, hell, sometimes it takes me 12 times to get it right. But like they say about Einstein, he made the light bulb, he made 500 mistakes. He only needed one to work.
Absolutely. You're right. You could take 14 stabs at it as long as the 15th one goes in, right? That's all that matters.
That's it.
Great stuff. All right, fellas. Well, thank you for the time today. We've gone almost an hour here. That always tells me it's been a great conversation. We've covered a lot of important stuff, but I do want to make sure we didn't leave anything off the table here. So going to go around the table for final thoughts real quick. And Jimmy, you're the guy that suggested this topic. You've had a lot of great things to say and a lot of good insight here today. Final thoughts before we let you go. Anything that you wanted to get out there in the air before you get back to work?
No, man. I just appreciate it. The only thing that I would say that, is that would be anything, with what we're talking about or with where I get some of my insight from. I got a ticket years ago for just speeding, just regular speeding. And I was going 11 miles an hour over the speed limit. And that's when I learned what careless and imprudent driving was. Because I thought I was okay. And then when that job contract ended and I had to go somewhere else, it was hard to get another job because insurance companies called that careless and imprudent driving, even though I wasn't even in a zone. So, that's where I get some of my knowledge about what that means. But, nothing, man. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you touched on it. And I hope that maybe, this topic and the conversation we've had, if somebody listens to it and if it helps them to understand or maybe helps them to think about things a little differently and they're young in their career, I hope it helps them to have a long career. That's all.
Amen to that, man. I hope so too, Jimmy. And great suggestion. Sometimes I get caught up in having all the fun that we get to have on this podcast, and I forget that, there's some super serious things that we need to talk about. And so I love it when you drivers help remind me of that, because this show is for you. And obviously you're the ones out there doing the job. If you want to hear about it, I'm good to talk about it. And Amanda is too. So keep the suggestions coming, fellas, and thank you, Jimmy, for this one. And thank you for the time today. Be safe out there, as I know you will be, because we just spent an hour talking to you about how that's what you do. Thanks for showing up today, man. Polar Bear, we'll head to you for your final thoughts, my friend. What do you got for us?
I'm always hard finding final thoughts, but once again, what we're talking about is you can't. Everything happens so quick behind the wheel of this. You can't second guess what you think you might do. That's just mine. Just don't take stuff for granted that you think, okay, I'll have plenty of time to stop. I'll have plenty of time to react. You may need to. I was telling another younger friend that was riding with me in the pickup. I was telling him, I said, that's one thing in the semi that you just cannot check your mirrors enough. You cannot, especially your right mirror, because you just never know when there might be the truck or a wrecker on the side of the road, and oh man, I didn't look ahead of me to see I need to get over. Well, there's 15 cars right next to how none of them are going to let me in, so that's just it. Just don't take stuff for granted out here, and do your job right. Look ahead. You can't look far enough ahead.
I'm going to add one thing to it that I've heard the guys say in various orientation and training. I think Bo and Cole have mentioned it to me. Leave yourself an out, right? Especially in construction zones. Always leave yourself an out.
Yep.
Thanks.
Exactly.
Thanks, Polar Bear. We always appreciate the time with you, my friend. John, we're coming to you for your final thoughts now, man. Glad you made it back to us before we had to cut the call off. Anything that we left on the table today that you want to get out there, or any final thoughts for us outside of that?
Well, I don't know if these two veterans, they got a little bit more experience than I have, ever went through the Smith system. I think that right there has been the best help to me for almost every situation.
Guys, Polar Bear, Jimmy, real quick, did you guys go through the Smith system?
I don't know.
12 times. I've been through it about 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 times. Yeah. Every company.
He's teaching it.
I was with one company. I was with one company where every 2 years you had to do safety videos, and that was one of the safety videos. Smith Klein system. That's the system for defensive driving for big trucks, basically.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
John.
Well, actually, it was actually developed for the post office.
Oh,
for the mail
interesting.
carriers.
Okay. And how does it help you, John?
Well, basically, it makes you get the big picture. It literally lets you control your environment. Technically, the only environment you control is the front of this truck. Everything in the back, if somebody was going to run up on you and rear end you, there wouldn't be nothing you could do.
Mm-hmm.
One, these damn trucks are just so slow that a lot of people try to make them into NASCAR and truck stops, but I mean, they're not made for speed.
Right.
They're made for pulling, torque, and cruising. And so the Smith system gives you a way to get out of every situation as long as you can see it coming from the front. The rear, only thing you can do is maintain your distance.
Right.
And pray to God that the guy behind you ain't on a cell phone going through the construction zone.
Right.
That's a big one.
Because this morning, now this is food for thought. This morning, I had an RL truck pulling a set of triples. And we were coming up 74, and they had one lane blocked off. I don't know what they were doing with it, but they had cones out. And he was encroaching into my lane. And he was in the middle, I was in the far left.
Wow.
And I was trying to pass him because I knew he was doing something he shouldn't because he was running over the zipper. But, it's people have no concentration anymore to pay attention. And I would love more than anything to blame it on these automatics. Because at least if you had a standard, you were always constantly looking at your gauges, looking at your mirrors, because you always had to grab the gear below if you were going to slow down, or when you were climbing a hill, you still had to drop a gear or two.
Sure.
And this thing's just making it so easy for anybody to get behind the wheel. No concentration.
It's an interesting take, man.
That's just my opinion.
Right. No, and I think it's an interesting take, and I can't, not that that's my job is to debunk your opinions on this show, but I can't come up with a good argument against it. I understand it probably could if you gave me an hour and a couple of beers and the motivation to debunk it. I don't think, though, I think it's a good point because, listen, it's that type of focus that's needed for 18 gears on top of all the other things that you guys do is a separate gear itself, right? You guys were different drivers back when you had those manuals, and maybe it has maybe it's softened up your hands a little bit, fellas. I don't want to call you soft hands, but I totally understand. But Listen, guys, I've had you here for an hour and 3 minutes. I can't in good conscience keep you here any longer. I know you got a job to do. It's like 7 p.m. where Amanda is. We're in different time zones. I got to let you guys go. But Jimmy Travis, John Harrington, Polar Bear, you guys did awesome here today. Thank you so much for bringing your experience to the table and helping us talk through construction zone safety, fellas. We'll get you all back on the show again soon. Just be safe out there, okay?
Yes, sir. I want to be on the distracted. I want to put my name in quick. So, but once you do, I will sign up for it. But
okay, all right.
Superstar.
And here's what we're gonna do with you, Polar Bear. We're gonna play a little game where we can see how easily you get distracted. We're gonna have Amanda call you on the phone, and I'm gonna talk to you in the other ear, and we're just gonna see how long you can go. Okay?
there you go.
I bet you he listens to Amanda more than he listens to you.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, man. All right, guys, be safe out there. We'll talk to you soon. Okay?
Enjoy. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, it's not often that you get to say, we've got 60 plus years of experience on the phone right now, and you're not even considering John's experience. That's just Jimmy and Polar Bear. What a great segment there, Amanda. Tons of really, really good just tips and knowledge from guys that have seen almost everything you can see out there on the road.
I gotta say, like, even though I'm still kind of the newbie, I feel like I'm starting to notice a common theme with the drivers that we talk to, and especially Polar Bear really standing out with this. And that's the work ethic and the desire to do the right thing, whether that reason is I don't want to get in trouble, whether that reason is, hey, I'm out here providing for my family, I don't want to lose my livelihood. It doesn't matter the reason, but the common theme seems to just be doing the right thing, being a good driver. And I think my final thought, if I had one, is the theme of today, or just from our drivers, is like the opposite of Nike. It's just don't do it. You're thinking about speeding through a construction zone, just don't do it. You know, it's not worth it in any way, shape, or form. So that's my Jerry Springer final thought of the day.
I like it. And listen, Polar Bear is a great example, as are Jimmy and John as well. I did not do that on purpose, Jimmy, John.
I was just going to say, we were just saying, don't go fast.
It happened, and I'm sorry, but a big Kevin Harvick fan over here too. So obviously, shout out to the 2.9 and the 4, I guess. But as I think about what you just said there, I think that in my 120 some episodes here on this podcast, what I can tell you is, I think the company does a really good job of instilling that instinct into their drivers off the bat, because I hear it from, guys like Polar Bear that have been here for 30 years, been working for this company, been pulling tanks all over this great nation and doing it for Liquid with a big smile on their face. But I also hear that from guys that maybe have only been here 6 months, maybe have only been here a couple of years. And that means that not only are you training them correctly, you're training them the best way possible, but everybody's got the same motivations, right? Everybody's doing it for the right reason. It's not just doing the right thing, it's doing the right thing for the right reason. And those reasons, like you said, they can be different for each individual, but as long as they all kind of, smash up at the end of the day into a nice stew, that's all we're looking for.
A nice liquid, if you will.
Yeah. A nice amalgamation, if I'm going to throw out a big word.
All
You
right,
like that
fancy.
one?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, now I need a nap. So that's going to do it for us today. Fantastic conversation with Jimmy, Polar Bear, and John. Thank you guys so much for giving us a full hour of your time today. It's not often that they run that long, but we had so much good stuff to talk about, and I hope that you guys out there can take something away from it and stay safe in that next construction zone, because there's another one coming up around the bend at some point in time. I'm Marcus. That's Amanda. We are out of time, and we've been out of time for like 5 or 6 minutes, so we'll see you guys next week. Stay safe. Keep the shiny side up. That's my final thought for the day. Amanda, anything you want to leave them with?
Keep it shiny and don't add any orange barrel paint. How about that?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Rubbin's racing, but not in a construction zone. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Thanks for tuning in and being the gold standard of drivers on the road. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and tune in next week for another episode of the Liquid Trucking Podcast.
Interested in finding out more about what it takes to bring a podcast like the Liquid Trucking Podcast to your fleet? Bulldog provides tailor-made top-to-bottom podcast production services. We'll meet your terminal staff, connect with your drivers, and bring you the content you want your drivers to hear. Type bulldog.works into your browser to connect with us and learn more about what we can do for your fleet. That's bulldog.works for podcasts, tenacious recruiting, and more.